Good afternoon. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 a.m. KKNW. I'm your host, Reverend Walden, and as usual, it's my joy to be on the air. I had a great weekend. I hope you did. It's a change of pace in the weather now. What it was 70 something on Saturday and almost 80 on Friday, something like that. So anyway, it's a great change in the weather today, and maybe of course if you stick around in Seattle, the weather will always change, and I'll never leave I always have a sweater in my car, no matter what season it is. You just never know how things are going to happen here, and the weather does change fast. Not only here in Seattle, but across the country. I guess it's going to be coming on a little later. It's from Albuquerque. I'm so delighted to be talking with him about the consent decree and ending of the consent decree there, filing in the court like they did here. And that so my guess so for the first few segment for this segment, you just be listening to me, and I'm excited to be on the air. I just want to thank my supporters right now, and also the sponsor, Virtues Healing Circle, for healing for sponsoring Mother's Justice Show, and we do need some healing, don't we? Absolutely. So I want to talk about my Saturday event. I was at FAST, Fathers and Sons Together. I was Mr. and Mrs. Wilmore event, and it's a wonderful nonprofit. They're doing the wonderful with the young people. And this program is for, it's a lot of boys without fathers in the home. And we know throughout time that fathers are absolutely necessary for kids to get here in the beginning. They're necessary, but they're also necessary at every juncture of a child's life. And they had free barbers down there, and one lady was braiding, and it was so well attended. Last year was outside. This year was inside at Rainier Beach Community Center and the beach. And had a lot of people from that area. Of course, I don't live in that area, but I live in Seattle, and so I don't know where that area is. And I have lived south before, a little south of Rainier Beach, but it was a wonderful event. It was well attended. There was a lot of young people, and a lot of people came in to take advantage of the free haircuts. A lot of the barbers, and I was surprised that one of the barbers was a police officer. I didn't know that. So, and then you had the SPD had a booth, Mothers for Police Accountability. I had a booth, and the Virtues Healing Circle had a booth. We shared a table. And we shared the virtues cards with people who came by, and they took a picture of the card, and we took a picture, and we talked about the virtues cards because one of the things I know that's what's missing in the world right now is a clarion call to people to stand up to be different, and to choose another way of life, and that goodness is part of that, and being understanding and kind, and so the virtues help us to remember who we are, because right now we're having a hard time, and that's what this program was about on Saturday. The chief was there, and all the cadets who's getting ready to go through the academy, and they were talking about. We had a healing circle, and actually, it wasn't really wasn't really a healing circle, but it was a circle that people can go sit in and to be heard. And then just to say who they are, and what they were there, and what they represented. And some people had short stories, and other people had long stories. It was a young elderly man now, 81 years old, and he's a golfer. And his whole idea right now is to get young kids involved with golfing, because he says nobody gets hurt on the golf course, because nobody's ever put down a golf course, a cane, a stick to go pick up a gun. And he talks about his story. He's had a journey to get to where he is, and he's 81, and it's like, wow. Sometimes people think that they tell us that that we should just go sit home. After we've been doing things for a long time, and he's still going. And I said, wow, this is so interesting that this is going on. But it was so many vendors there. City Light was there, SPD was there, Mothers Against Gun Violence was there, and we had a great talk. And I talked to them because they got that started after the Sandy Hook event, when all those kids got killed up in Connecticut, and one lady told me, I asked them about that. I said, well, you didn't get involved when other kids was getting killed, and one lady said, yeah, she said she recognized that, she said she's sorry that they didn't have the forethought to be involved with with violence in America before it hit home on their front steps. So, and maybe that's how the world is. Maybe we don't get involved with things before we have a self-interest in it. And so I guess everything is self-interest on some level. But like I keep talking about it because I had such a great time. They had Milton, and Ashley McGirt was there. She does the mental health, the counseling, the mental health fund, and she brought young people with her. So it's a lot going on in this city, especially with young people. I personally don't have any real young children at my disposal right now. My second oldest grandson, he's 17. He's at Franklin. And he's a junior, so he has his schedule is all kind of booked up, and he works 2 jobs. And I can't call him Little Chikundi anymore because he's taller than his father. That's Chikundi's son. Most people know that Chikundi, all the Salisbury kids of mine. Chikundi Salisbury he works for Parks, but they also have C-Spot Media. And then I have Tundi Salisbury. He's a master optician, and he makes sunglasses, just like his mother, just like I did. And opticians are people who fill the prescription. So we are pharmacists for eyeglasses. That's what an optician is. And Tunde is a master optician. What he does, he's great. You need a pair of eyeglasses, make sure you give him a call. And then my youngest son is Tunde. It's Omai Salisbury with Converge Media. And everybody in Seattle has heard about Converge Media and all across the country. It's some great documentaries. It got 3 Emmys a couple of years ago. Been nominated for an Emmy again this year. So they're doing a lot of good work. Trey is on the morning show now. It's not called the morning show anymore. It's called The Day with Trey. And tomorrow, I give a shout out to my youngest granddaughter. Her name is Victoria. She's going to be, I think, 12 tomorrow. It might be 13. I'm not quite sure. She lives in Houston. I've seen her a couple of times. She's come up here. She's been up here last summer. Beautiful little girl. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And my oldest granddaughter, occasionally, she's knocking on the door at 30. Not quite there yet, but she's my oldest granddaughter. Oh, and while I'm talking about family updates, I might as well say my oldest grandson is graduating from Loyola University in Chicago on the 11th. And then Isis is finishing up her master's program at veterinarian science down at Tuskegee. So wow, I have a lot going on here. There's really going on. And also the other thing I want to just talk about just a little bit, changing the subject, is that we have a podcast. So make sure you check it out. It's on 11:50 a.m. KKNW, and make sure you tell your friends about it and subscribe for it. Okay. So I guess that's the modern thing to do, is have a podcast. And so I'm just trying to keep up. Hey, I can't keep up with the young people. I'm trying to. But I'm not trying to. I'm going at my own pace. Why should I try to keep up? I'm just trying to be current and do the things I can. I then reached out to Akron, Ohio. I'm still trying to get somebody on the show from Akron, Ohio, to talk about the Jalen Walker case. This young man had 46 shots that hit his body. We only know it takes 1 bullet to kill him, but I guess the police officers was just having a great time, just like the people there in Memphis was there with the young man there in Memphis. So. The grand jury did not bring any charges. I don't know if the DOJ is making up its mind to go there or not. And so once again, it's the same scenario. It absolutely is the same scenario. And it's been going on for many, many years now. And people say defund the police. I can understand that. And then you get what you have in Seattle when you don't have enough police officers. I was talking to a mother whose son was who was murdered on Mother's Day in her arm, and he died in her arms. So she'll be on my show this month also, and talk about the lack of activity she's getting on her case. She can't even get a call back from the detectives, and that's just unacceptable. And it really is. But what has happened is that the community is paying a great price for all our movements here. And one of the backlash, you've had a lot of officers quit. Some went to other departments. Some we left with good riddance, and some probably might have still have been arrested for some of the things that they did, and they never did. There was never did any real activity or justice for these people who've been harmed. But one of the things that I know is that we have not evolved to have a society without police. We can talk about evolving, but we have not gotten to that level yet, and we have not been able to absolutely iron out what constitutional police. We know what constitutional policing is, but we have not been able to implement it almost in those cities. And I know you have a lot of places where they're taking some of the responsibilities from the police officer, and I can understand that. In some of those cities, and some of it's happened here in Seattle. The one I really did object to was removing the 911 call center out. It was there for a purpose, and it fit together well. I mean, the people there had lots of experience of dispatching 911 calls and all of that. So it's different now, and it takes a long time to build up to a capacity of some kind of proficiency. And I think that when people change things and throw out the baby with the bathwater, then things happen. I saw a clip the other day where somebody tweeted out that I guess in the early 1900s, in the last century, there was a train that went from Seattle to Everett, and they canceled that. They got rid of it, took up the tracks, and now they're trying to build transportation someplace else. So sometimes people who think that they know better for the future, it's actually making a mistake. But one of the things I know that we're not making a mistake is that Black people are tired. We're absolutely tired of the violence. I mean, we've known no peace in 400 years, and most of the violence against us is unprovoked. I mean, now we have our own situations in the community, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But this other stuff, I mean, you can't go to the grocery store. Where can we go? I mean, as the first people who ever walked the planet, where can we go? And everybody else would be our children. And Ivan Van Sertima, who was an anthropologist, he passed away a few years ago. And he said the Africans left Africa over 250,000 years ago upright. And people every continent. I mean, and that's the thing that I want people to understand. Upright. All this other stuff here, all the other stuff we hear about us is not true. But somehow we've internalized all of this other madness that's really going on. And one of the things I wanted to touch on just a few minutes here before we take a break and bring on our guests. I want to spend the next few minutes. I'm potpourri today, and that's okay. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the escalation of violence in the community, in our community. I mean, in the Black community, and our children. I mean, a lot of these are young people. I mean, and even, what's this about? It's more socializing now to believe that picking up a gun is the right thing to do, to harm somebody you don't even know. And it's escalating. I mean, 3 people were shot this weekend, maybe more here in Seattle. I mean, it's like we don't have that many people here for you to just kind of kill people. But what is this about? And a lot of money has gone into programs. I said, but until you understand the root cause of this, and I talked to a social worker on Saturday. I said, this violence escalated as a result of integration. I came out of segregation. We didn't have this kind of violence where I lived at. Everybody's segregation and Jim Crow was different. But I lived in Goldsboro, all Black township, one of the oldest ones that's ever started in America. We didn't have violence. I mean, we didn't have a lot of people being harmed. And to see this, I don't know what it's like to feel this way that our young people are feeling. And this has been going on for a generation now, at least since the late over generation. Started by the late 80s, in the late 80s and early 90s is when it escalated. But I want to I'm going to spend the rest of my minutes before I bring on my guests talking about May Day. I mean, when I grew up, May Day was an event. And I guess they canceled May Day in America, actually during the Cold War. They canceled it because I participated in the May Day. I wasn't the May Queen. I could lie and say I was, but I sure was cute. Planting the maypole. I was cute. And it was something that we did. And I guess it might have been a pagan holiday or something. It might have come out of Europe a long time ago about spring. And I saw a picture about Eleanor Roosevelt with some young kids about the May Day flower baskets. When I was we actually put flowers down and that type of stuff, fresh flowers, beautiful flowers. And all the ribbon for the maypole was different spring colors. And each girl had I don't think the boys did the maypole, up to my understanding. I don't remember the boys doing the maypole, but I did. I mean, and I was really cute doing the maypole. I mean, I really was. I mean, I was a cute little girl. long time ago. And I got fond memories about May Day, and also we got canceled in America because they was afraid of the workers uniting. That was another reason why it got canceled here in America, and you don't hear about it as much. And now here in Seattle, you have had young people go downtown and kind of tear up stuff. But about 10 or 15 years ago, it was a lot of people, workers that came together. So a lot of things have been taken out that we don't know about, and May Day is one of those. May Day is one of those events, and May Day actually was fun. I had fun on May Day. Like I say, I was really cute. But I'm going to just to end this segment right now and take a break, come back, and I have my guests with me. So thank you for listening to the Mother's Justice Show. This is Rem Walden. I'll be right back. Thank you.
The Mother's Justice Show is brought to you by H.G. Walden and the Virtues Healing Circles. Join us for Wisdom and Wellness with Reverend Walden, a monthly virtual and in-person healing circle that focuses on community healing and growth. Learn more at virtueshealing.com. That's virtueshealing.com. Also, be sure to join our healing group on Facebook. Again, visit us at virtueshealing.com today.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW. It's KKNW, so it's my joy to be on the air. You know, I love being on there. I want to bring my guests on. He's been waiting in the waiting room, absolutely prompt and before time. I just love that. Only attorneys do that. That's a training. How you doing, Mr. Mathewson? Is that right? Is that how you
Mathewson?
Mathewson. Yes,
yeah,
thank you, Mr. Mathewson.
I actually got that from a basketball coach. He said, if you can't be on time, be early.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's how I was raised too. I mean, and I was raised. I was never late. I got the most dependable award from first grade to 12th grade, and then I was never tardy. So
I can't say that I've always been on time.
Yeah, you know, that's how I run my life, and it's just one of my core virtues is to be on time and to that type of thing. Of course, I came out of segregation, and people had a lot of different training than a lot of people have today. You were trained to do certain things and expected. So, but thank you for saying yes. I wanted to bring you on today. And I want to let the people know. I want to let my listeners know that you're an emeritus professor. You're an attorney. You went to Howard University. You got your degree from Yale. Oh man, you are an emeritus professor of the law and former co-dean of the University of Mexico School of Law. Oh, and as the dean, you chaired the Judicial Section Commission of the state of New Mexico. Prior to joining that facility at New Mexico, you were practicing field and a corporate attorney, and also the most outstanding thing for me is you went to Howard University.
The Mecca.
You know why it's outstanding to me? It's because one of my heroes is we do a breakfast every year called the Thurgood Marshall Breakfast. And we are honoring attorneys. He's one of my heroes. He took those cases down in Florida. He set them up. I'm from Florida, and he set those cases up brilliantly to be able to go to the Supreme Court. He just knew. And so anybody that went to Howard and graduated and then went on to become a great attorney like you have, I said, oh my goodness, he's walking in the shoes. My favorite heroes.
So I disappointed some folks at Howard, I think, by going to Yale Law School as opposed to Howard Law School. But I will say that when I would travel down south while in law school, I often found that people were more impressed with Howard than Yale.
Well, you can see how I was. I came out of segregation, and it's our schools that got us through. Everybody else said no, and the schools that got us through. So, but I'm glad you went to Yale. I'm glad you left. You went there and you came out, and where are you from originally?
North Carolina. So I grew up in segregation too.
Okay. What city in North Carolina?
A little town called Tarboro.
Okay. Well, my kids, I know where it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No. Go ahead and tell me about Tarboro, because I got a story. I got a big story about North Carolina.
it's northeastern North Carolina. It was tobacco country. And so what I remember prior to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, I remember the movie theaters, and they had the colored balcony. We'd sit upstairs. Some people would throw popcorn down below.
Are you not included? I won't tell.
I didn't do things like that. The Trailways bus station had the separate waiting rooms. The hospital had the separate waiting rooms.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then I like to think I witnessed the revolution, but didn't know that that's what was happening.
Right.
But things did start changing.
Yeah.
Those segregated waiting rooms, the schools, everything. But I will say with integrating the schools, because I first attended white schools under a freedom of choice plan. That was the first way to comply around. And that was my mother's choice to send us. We had no idea of what to expect. And then by the time I finished high school, they had been consolidated by court order.
Right.
So a transition had begun occurring and what I could expect. And then I went off to Howard.
Got another experience.
And then to Yale after that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I too grew up in segregation. All my teachers was Black. I never had a white teacher in my life. I was taught by the late McLeod Mathewson. A lot of them was trained by Mary McLeod Mathewson. So I grew up with that. I sung Left Every Voice and Sing. I didn't know until I was 18 when I found out it wasn't the song, but it's still my song. So
now, Mary McLeod Bethune was my mother's heroine.
Oh, okay.
So I knew all about Mary McLeod Bethune going. And I've often thought that Mary McLeod Bethune was Title IX for Black women before there was Title IX.
That's right. It was. The Negro clubs. Had the Negro club, something like that. And Lift As You Climb, and just so many things. Yes. And so I'm glad I came out of segregation. It gave me a lot. And my story from North Carolina is my former husband is from Rocky Mount, and all of my kids. I went to Elizabeth City State.
Oh yeah, you do know where Tarboro is.
And my granddaughter, I another generation. She graduated 2 years ago from down at Elizabeth City State. So I've been on that campus many times. My youngest son played football down there, and I love Elizabeth City. I'm still a Southern girl. I don't care where I go. Yeah. I love the friendliness. I love that. I love North Carolina. What I love about North Carolina, every 12 miles, that's a little city. That's a little town.
My father's sisters were Elizabeth City grads.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's a great campus, and you got to go fly into Norfolk, and you got to come through the Dismal Swamp, man, and the slaves dug that out. So, I know a little history about North Carolina. Yeah, I'm a closet scholar. I don't have all the degrees about being a scholar, but I love history. And true transparency, I'm not an integrationist. I think that we gave up more than we gained. And I think that we lost his mind, that we lost our children's mind. And we have not been able to get their minds back. So, but I live in an integrated world. And so that's how I roll. I know that all people, I honor all people and work with all people. But we want to talk about you and the work that you've done. And I asked you to come on. I called Sue first, and she always gives me a litany of names. I've been to Albuquerque. I did my radio show from there a few years ago. And it's a lovely place. And I do intend to come. I'm hoping to come back this summer, but I want to come back there. But I asked you to come on to talk about the ending of the consent decree and that, what brought it on. We'll talk a little bit about that, then take a break, and then continue that. Because the DOJ don't give you what you think you're going to get. Not for us, but I wanted to hear what.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say, I have a disclaimer that my comments are mine. They're not the universities. They're not the community coalition that I represent. They are mine and exclusively my views. So that's my disclaimer.
Okay.
So I am a corporate lawyer. I do care and have thought about reform of the criminal justice system for years. Had thought about it for years, but I found my path from Yale into corporate law. So I went to work for a large Denver law firm before going to law teaching here at the University of New Mexico. And in the course of teaching here, we have a mandatory clinical program. So every student goes through their clinic representing live clients. And I supervise business and tax law cases. I did a variety of cases, but that was my primary focus, and did a lot of nonprofit formation. And in the course of representing, helping an organization get started, I met a woman named Jewel Hall, and she has always been grateful about me and my students. And so in I guess around 2010, I'm not sure exactly when it started because I didn't get involved in 2014, but there had been a slew of fatal police shootings in Albuquerque over a short period of time, particularly of mentally ill and homeless folks. But Jewel Hall put the wrong one. My students are familiar with that call. It's probably a daughter trying to get on listening to the show. But
she could listen online. She could go online to the 11:50 a.m. KKNW.
I thought I told her that, but I'll text her while I talk. But Jewel had some close friends here whose son was killed, and she put together. I mean, she is a tireless advocate. Has been involved in the community for years. She's now over 80, but she helped organize a coalition to try to get the Department of Justice to investigate, and they were eventually successful. And in 2014, the Department of Justice came out with their findings letter. It was a scathing indictment of the Albuquerque Police Department, but they were going to negotiate a consent decree, and all the organizations and activists who had been pushing to get DOJ to come in was, what's our role? What's our role in that process? Because they didn't tend to, at least they didn't want to be left out of that. And so one of the things that I wound up doing out of that was listening to this. I organized a team of students and I did some community education workshops explaining the process that would happen. In terms of the activists, the biggest call was to have police officers prosecuted.
Right.
And the process by which DOJ issued that findings letter and was negotiating this consent decree was not in a criminal statute. That was another part. Criminal enforcement was another part of the Department of Justice.
Right.
And this was the civil rights section.
That's right.
This was civil litigation. And so there is a federal statute coming out of the Rodney King era from 1994. And it authorized the Department of Justice to seek injunctive relief where it found a police department for pattern and practice of unconstitutional policing.
Right.
And so that was DOJ was making this finding that they found that here. The statute does not provide by its terms anything about community involvement in the process. No. One of the things about it is also, it is not a punitive statute.
No.
So people wanted accountability. So they wanted that criminal prosecution, but this statute doesn't call for that. This injunctive relief that entitles DOJ to go and get a court to say stop.
That's right.
That I want you to stop this pattern and practice.
Right.
But we're not going to penalize it. What we're going to do is make you stop doing it anymore, which was hard for a lot of people to come to grips with, because it wasn't about accountability and just understanding that that's what it would do. And so DOJ, it doesn't take these cases to trial necessarily, but it winds up negotiating these consent decrees. And they're called court-approved settlement agreements, which have the effect of a consent decree. But in essence, they get the city to agree, without admitting that they did anything wrong, to agree to stop it and to take certain measures that will prevent it from happening again. I mean, that's the idea behind it. And so my students and I did these workshops to explain what would happen to the statute, but we were also looking at the process by which the community could have involvement. They could participate in what would happen. So one of the things that there was a city council. So at some point, the city, the DOJ and the mayor were going to reach an agreement, and that agreement would go before the city council. But one of the questions that came up in our workshops was somebody asked, wait, consent? Whose consent? I'm not consenting. Whose consent? Well, but that's just it. It's the city's consent.
That's right.
And the city was the mayor.
That's right.
So it was the mayor's consent.
That's right.
And here, I can't say for other cities, but here, after the mayor and the Department of Justice reached an agreement, the agreement was then presented to the city council for endorsement.
That's right.
But not just approval, but just the endorsement. So but since it was going to go to the council, any proceeding in the council, because the council provides avenues for public participation, that there was a place to participate. But the other thing that happened, as I recall, Portland and perhaps some other cities as well had provided for a procedure called a fairness hearing. It's something that is used in class action cases before a court approves a settlement. That it has a hearing on the fairness and reasonableness of a settlement, and so that's something that we asked for here, and it's something that the city and DOJ asked the court to do when they filed the complaint. But as a part of that, they were going to allow organizations and folks represented by lawyers to participate in that fairness hearing. So you had to find a lawyer who would represent you for free, and who was willing to file an amicus brief.
Right.
And so I went from doing these community education workshops to representing folks in federal court. Now what had happened? I started out those workshops with students. But then when it came to the fairness hearing, I put together a team of lawyers, a couple of former students of mine, one, Leon Howard, who left us to go work for the ACLU, which was a part of another amici coalition, and then Antonio Maestas, who was a representative and is now a state senator. Mm-hmm. And Stephen Torres, whose son was killed, so that we represent the community coalition, and I like to describe them as the coalition of the disenfranchised. And our big issue was the findings letter in terms of this pattern and practice of unconstitutional policing only focused essentially on the Fourth Amendment, use of force. It did not focus on the 14th and racial bias.
That's right.
And so the community coalition, as we are known, that was our big position. We wanted to try to get race into the final consent decree. We were unsuccessful in large part, but one of the things the parties did agree to do was to collect demographic data that would allow the monitor to report on in the monitor's outcomes assessment. So it's demographic data along with uses of force, where they occurred, types of use of force. I mean, all of that would be reported and assessed by the quantitative and qualitative assessments by the monitor. It's also true that they, in the early intervention system, which is now, I think, just up and running, it's a computerized database that would collect the same type of information that they could use in supervising officers. But it too required the collection of this demographic data by incident, sufficient to assess bias.
Right.
So that was all that we were able to obtain, but there's no prohibition. So if APD were to engage in discriminatory policing, it might be illegal, it might be unconstitutional, but it's not a violation of the consent decree.
Wow, you know what? I similar. Let's take a break and come back and finish and continue this. The DOJ. I'm just going to take a break. We'll be right back. You listen to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW.
The Mother's Justice Show is brought to you by H.G. Walden and the Virtues Healing Circles. Join us for Wisdom and Wellness with Reverend Walden, a monthly virtual and in-person healing circle that focuses on community healing and growth. Learn more at virtueshealing.com. That's virtueshealing.com. Also, be sure to join our healing group on Facebook. Again, visit us at virtueshealing.com today.
You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW. I'm your host, Reverend Walden. I want to bring my guest on again, Mr. Alfred Mathewson. He's a great attorney, a great professor, a great organizer. And I hear he's a great with expectancy to be a grandfather soon. So he got a lot of great things going on. Welcome.
Thank you.
Man, the DOJ. I mean, I'll just say what I said off air. I think most people think when they come into town that the police shooting is going to go down. So our level of accountability, grassroots people, a level of accountability, we think about police shootings going down and officers being arrested. I mean, having some accountability. And so that accountability does not jive what the Justice Department has in mind. And I think it leaves some people in the community kind of like, Oakland has most of the places people, they have a bad taste in their mouth. Not only is it a lot of money, but it's just not, nobody actually explained to you what it's going to be. I mean, because we didn't have that explanation. I actually thought, oh, gee whiz. But anyway, they're filed in court. And so, same thing is happening in your community, but you have a different, so I'm gonna let you continue.
Well, I'm probably not as pessimistic as you are, but I will say it didn't take me long to reach the conclusion that this statute really was an avenue for the Department of Justice to come in and quiet things down.
That's right. But it's another statute they could have used, but I think they would have to. I have to say that the police department had figured out a way to decertify them. And I don't think they're willing to use I don't think they're willing to bring every tool they have because they need them in the long run. So they're partners to us in the long run. So they're not willing to do what's really hard to correct the situation.
Department of Justice, I think, has to be pushed.
Exactly.
And so one of the things, actually, it's been almost 9 years now, 4 hours. And so I've spent 9 years sort of studying this. And I noticed.
You'll be an emeritus professor.
I'm already emeritus.
Another one.
So one of the.
People should bring you in before they decide to bring in the DOJ.
So I was new to police reform.
Mm-hmm.
And so people that the organizations and activists who have been dealing with this for years, long before I became involved. What I told them, I am a part of the system. I am committed to making the system work for you. And just been tireless about that. But as time would go on, they would ask, yeah, "You still committed?" And so it has been frustrating, but I am still committed, and I'm studying the process. One of the things that I learned was at the very beginning, our coalition, in addition to wanting to address racial bias, basically what we're pushing, we wanted a cultural transformation in the police department. We want a transformation that people could touch and feel. But it was, we would get agreement in words, but it takes time. And finally, after 8 years of it takes time, I just started saying, wait a minute, it will take the time we give it. And what I want to see happen is a time frame. What is it? Looking at where the city is now, and they have made strides toward full compliance. These technical full compliance,
and they're technical. See, but we the grassroots folks didn't know that. See, I mean, the people, I've been doing this work too for a long time. We didn't know it was technical.
Yeah, so that's something. So they made progress in the way. So it's made a difference, but even that was slow. And what I wanted to say, you can't get the culture transformation until they get to full technical compliance. And that the rate we were going, it was going to be another 4 to 6 years or longer before they got to technical compliance. So to get to cultural transformation, we need full technical compliance, but it has to happen a lot sooner.
Yes.
And so what I want, it was time frames for each part of the consent decree. Not just something that we hope will occur at some point in the future. Let's put some real deadlines on. These are the things that have to be done. When they will be done, let's play it out to the end, and let's do it in 2 years. Let's get to that point in 2 years, and we still have to focus on culture transformation with that. And so then we're going to have to do some things, again, specifically with respect to culture transformation. It will not automatically occur because you have technical compliance. So you got next in terms of figuring out what should that culture transformation look like? And that's one of the things that we are focused on now, articulating what are the specifics of the culture transformation we would like to see. And when I raise that, people keep telling me, look to what happened in Camden. And the Camden use of force policy is indeed interesting because it begins focusing on the sanctity of life.
Wow, right.
And that lethal force is the last resort. It's not it's not just like the escalation, but the last result. So. But finding the language of the culture transformation.
Did the shootings go down in Camden though?
I think that things, yes, I think the crime, shooting and things, I think have gone down in Camden. I can't swear about that, but I believe that it has.
Okay.
But I'm told I kept hearing, look to what happened in Camden.
Okay.
There's more to it, but the words are important.
I'll check it out.
Being able to articulate what that culture transformation is, and then figuring out how you do it.
Well, I always said that we got to meet the status, and we did get to intervene, and we intervened on the use of force, and we said that we thought that everything they should de-escalate. De-escalation should be the first thing on their mind, and I can't remember all of it right now. Yeah. But the Attorney General did adopt our statement that is our policy for the police department, based on our involvement with the Community Police Commission. So that was one impact we were able to make.
But I think something focused on the sanctity of life goes beyond de-escalation.
And you're right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, but you have to. So from the corporate law side, when we do a deal, we start thinking about all the pieces that we have to do.
Yes.
And often when you have a takeover, there's going to be a culture transformation, and they have thought about how they're going to achieve that. So you have one company acquiring another, and it has its own culture. The company they're acquiring has its own culture, but the acquiring company is going to impose its culture.
Right.
And they think about how to do it, and it has to be that same type of thinking when it comes to policing.
I like that. I really do. I think that's a great idea. I mean, before we go out, before we're done, I'll tell you about what the chief is doing here.
Yeah.
To try to get a culture change. But I think that's a great idea, because I mean, we haven't had, and nothing has worked. I mean, dead bodies. They get a 3-month vacation, get their job back, and then they get all their money back. I mean,
so
not many things have worked.
But let me tell you why DOJ and the statute is important with this. Because it gives you leverage during the time it's in place. If you're, and this is, it does. So it's because there is this court order in place.
Yeah.
And even in terms of trying to get to technical compliance, it gives you leverage.
Okay.
And there's a fear. There's a real fear here of what will happen once they have attained full compliance and have sustained it for 2 years. We hear often from the police and others saying we'd like DOJ out of here.
Yeah, that's what we're saying here in Seattle.
But here's the thing: the consent decree will come to an end.
Yes,
but the Constitution will not.
No, that's true. Thank goodness.
There will still be a constitutional obligation.
Yes.
Limits imposed on the police. But while that consent decree is in place, in addition to the Constitution, you have a federal court order in place. And in terms of focusing on trying to get compliance with it, we're not just thinking about the technical compliance, but the culture transformation that you want at the same time.
Right.
So, but this again, so I've learned something over the past. It's been almost 9 years now focusing on this.
Wow. Yeah, we've got about 4 more minutes. So, but I want you to at least kind of get to how the people are feeling about this. I mean, are they in line with it? I mean, Seattle had filed before. In May before George Floyd, and then they withdrew their filing. We filed in court against them and said that they had already had some sustainment period. Then now, with what happened here in Seattle, it's all over the news and stuff. So, but now, I mean, people are just saying that we're not going to get anything better.
There's a lot of frustration on the part of the amici, because. Again, it's been slow moving toward technical compliance, even slower moving toward a culture transformation at all.
With all deliberate speed, it took me a long time to know what that means.
and a sense that we haven't gotten nearly what we need to get out of this. Frustration that DOJ has not been tougher on the city in enforcing it.
That's right. I mean, we have the same sentiments here. I told them that they're leaving us worse than they found us, because when they did come, we had at least a police force, although they didn't have anything to do with that. I mean, but all the police officers who left with the defund movement and of that, the city council doing what they did, we are left without that. But quickly, this new chief here has started a program called Before the Badge. I'm a part of that program. New cadets come out and beat the community. They go from community to community. They go to community organizing. I mean, events. They were on an event that was happening on Saturday. And I think that's going to wind up being a national model because really and truly you're bringing in new people. And so the culture change might come from new people as these other people exit out. But and so that's one of the things that's happening here. And the DOJ didn't have nothing to do with that.
No, I think that's one of the lessons I've learned in talking to organizations that have been involved with this for years and trying to shape policy. One of the things they've said to me is that the court process is not as important as the involvement with the policy-making process. So each department has a policy-making process.
That's right.
In which the community can participate in. And that's where you can really force that culture change.
I agree. Because, from the time you've been doing this, if the policy is not updated and if officers are not trained to the updated policy, then it will be no discipline all over America. If the policy is not updated and the officer is not trained, I don't care. It's not going to be any discipline, And so policy is really important. I agree to that. Yeah.
But there is something else I want to just add about DOJ, what I think should happen. So one, it shouldn't take sort of this consent decree process for DOJ to get involved.
Right.
And it may take a change in the law, but I think with all the data that DOJ gets from these law enforcement agencies now, that it can develop a flagging system.
That's right. I agree.
And could act without regard to incidents. We've got triggering incident.
That's right.
But it flags them and say, we're intervening now.
Well, yeah, right. Because, Memphis had a lot of flags. They could have went into Memphis if that was going on. Mm-hmm. Memphis had a lot of flags. I mean, had people dying in custody. I mean, there was a lot of flag stuff going on in Memphis because I've been studying Memphis because Memphis is named from the first pyramid in ancient Africa. And so it has a lot of significance if people understood that connection. So I've been interested in Memphis a lot. So, but this has been interesting. I'm so glad that you were able to come on and talk about what's happening there. And just like I said, I love Albuquerque, so I'll be coming back. So when I get there, I'll make sure you know about it. But I really appreciate you. I mean, how you methodically, I mean, you're absolutely a great attorney, I mean, it's like, hey, trying to get that culture change and all of that. So, and you still, I mean, a lot of us on the other side don't believe we're going to ever get anything from the good men.
Well, and I was on a conference back in 2000, and a professor was saying, because I went into corporate law, and he went to tax law, and he said, maybe we made this move too soon, that we thought we could get away from civil rights, that we could do this something else. He said, well, maybe it was too soon.
Yeah. I would think Thurgood Marshall would say that. I really do. Yeah.
And so I've now, after 40 years, I guess it wasn't quite 40 years when I started this, like 32 years, I have sort of gotten involved with something that perhaps I should have been involved with sooner.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you for being a guest on Mother's Justice Show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. We'll listen to Mother's Justice Show on 11:50 a.m. KKNW. I'm your host, Reverend Walden. See you next week. I love being on there.